Welcome everyone to another installment of Wine Access Live. This is Eduardo Dingler, Vice President of Wine and Sourcing and Everything Fun at Wine Access. Today we have the pleasure following this stream of amazing guests we've had, all the way from Carlo Mondavi, Jean-Charles Boisset, Kathy Corison. Today we talk about a legend, one of the founding fathers in the Napa Valley, Joseph Phelps. And as we wait for our guests, we're going to pour ourselves a glass of this amazing 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. I hope everyone has something amazing on their glass. And cheers to all of you. And here we are with Joseph Phelps Winery. First, we're going to be joined by Will Phelps, amazing person and friend. Hey, Will.
Eduardo.
Great, man. How are you?
Great to see you.
Very good to see you. It is quite a pleasure. I miss seeing you more often while I was at Morimoto and having those amazing lunches and visiting the winery. And today we're here virtually for the world. So
we're here virtually.
What's in your glass?
Got a little 2017 Napa Valley Cabernet. I miss seeing
you too. Amazing. This is a beautiful wine, drinking amazingly. And let's hit it off and talk a little bit about the history, what Joe has accomplished over the years, being a pioneer in the Valley.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Eduardo. Thanks for the support and for having us on. You've been a supporter of our wines for a long time.
Huge fan. How could you not?
Fun to do this virtually and to reach people. So thanks everyone for joining, the people that are on. So a little bit about a background. Joseph Phelps was my grandfather. He started the winery back in 1973. Prior to joining the winery, he was in the construction business.
And very successfully, right?
He was pretty successful. Started that business. His father started it. His father's name was Hensel. It was based in Greeley, Colorado, just north of Denver. After a few years of coming back from the Navy, my grandfather took over that business, made it much larger than it was. My grandfather sensed an opportunity for growth out here in California in the 60s and opened up an office in the South Bay in Northern California here. That's when he started getting exposed to wine country, started having grapes shipped to him back in Greeley. And he would actually make wine in his basement.
Wow.
Not under the Joseph Phelps label. This is back late 60s, very early 70s. And then in 1973, what we call the home ranch, which is where I'm sitting right now, came on the market. It was this over 600-acre cattle ranch.
Wow.
That he purchased and took this big risk and got into this second career. Planted over 100 acres of vineyards and built this winery all in time for the 1974 harvest. Wow. And kind of started part two. And so he co-ran both the winery and the construction business all the way into the 80s. So a very busy man.
And I know for a fact your grandpa was so innovative and a pioneer into like experimenting with different varietals. And I know a lot of people, Robert Mondavi included, put a nod in his hat for him. It was pretty impressive what he accomplished.
Well, it was. When it was very early days, it was the second wave after Prohibition. When he joined in 73, there were fewer than 30 wineries at that time.
Wow.
So really
different landscape.
Different landscape, a visionary. A couple of firsts, to your point about being innovative, it was in 1974 that we produced the first varietally bottled Syrah in California. And so he had a passion for the Rhone wines. I heard you earlier mention that I worked a harvest at Gigal back in 2008. And that was a neat connection that we made with their family long ago. But so 74 was the first Syrah, as well as the first vintage of Insignia, which was the first proprietarily named Bordeaux-style blend in California, which is very innovative.
Which really carved the way for a lot of amazing wines. And Insignia, if you ask me, if you ask anybody that's watching, it really has a standard that it's hard to get to. It's almost unattainable for somebody to achieve that status. Continues to deliver year after year. I remember doing a couple of years ago, we did a vertical up at the winery. You were there, and Kim was there, and a few other people, and it was impressive tasting some of the early iterations of Insignia and how it's progressed over the years, and always maintaining the core.
Thanks, Eduardo. That's very kind. It's always been a representation of the very best from the vintage and having no restrictions, just calling it that name and putting whatever Mother Nature gives us that's the very best that year. And I know you've been a supporter at Wine Access and at Morimoto and everywhere, so we appreciate it.
No, it's a no-brainer. Again, it's amazing. So tell us a little bit about, for you, what is it to grow up in a house like this, in a understatement, to be an impressive wine house?
Well, I'm not alone. There are 8 of us in this 3rd generation. There are 4 in the 2nd generation. We've got 7 in the 4th generation.
Wow.
And more coming. So I've got 3 little girls. And
yes,
so
you do.
It's very special. It's very special being a family-owned wine business, and to be, squarely in our 3rd generation is becoming a pretty rare thing. And so we're proud of that. And it was an honor growing up in it. I will say, though, I took it a bit for granted, what a beautiful place this was and how special this industry is. But after working the harvest, after finishing college in 2008, that's when I really fell in love with wine and I got bit hard by the wine bug. And
that's awesome. You spent some time in San Diego, right?
You went to school there? Good memory.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did you consider another career while you were there, or what were you going for, another goal?
Yeah, I was actually, I had an environmental studies minor, a business major, so I was pretty interested in that. I did an internship with a solar panel company. So yeah, during those days, I think I was more interested in beer than wine, but it's certainly reversed now.
Absolutely. No, it's you have it at your fingertips. So you went in 2008, was it? You went to Kigal?
Exactly, a pretty challenging vintage.
Absolutely.
In the Rhone.
Then you came back here, and then when did you actually start at the winery full time? Because I know you were first an ambassador of sales, and now you're holding the position of the director of hospitality and direct to consumer.
Yeah, it was in 2012 that I officially joined and started getting a paycheck, as they say.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well earned after all those summers working, right?
We did, and most of our cousins did the same, actually, which is very special. A lot of us did internships here in summers during college and doing multiple stints in winemaking, cellar work, vineyard work, and then working in the tasting room here, which is a really neat exposure for all of us.
Wow, that's incredible. How many different wines do you have? Because you have a history also in the Sonoma coast, where Joe really spearheaded the Freestone, right?
That's right, yeah. So our history certainly for the first couple decades was very focused on Napa Valley, although we experimented with wines from elsewhere. Over time, we really honed in on producing Insignia, the Napa Valley Cabernet that we're going to have today, and a little bit of white wine here, like Sauvignon Blanc, but really very focused in Napa Valley. And my grandfather had a vision for making great Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. He experimented all over, both Napa Valley, Carneros, other parts of Sonoma, was trying to go for more of a Burgundian style, a cooler climate. And so, yeah, it was sort of chapter 2 of our history that was actually sort of history repeating itself. In '99, the family purchased 300 acres out on the Sonoma coast where there previously were no vineyards, planted 100 acres of vineyard from scratch, 20 of Chardonnay, 80 of Pinot Noir, and built a whole separate winery dedicated to those varietals. And now 2 decades later, I think it's turned out to be a really good bet.
Absolutely. And what a beautiful part of the world. I've had the pleasure of being there with you with the West Coast vintners. And wow, what an incredible place. I remember we did a little picnic out in the little meadows in between the vineyards, and it was quite a sight. I mean, recommended for everybody to kind of connect with the land and see what those wines are all about.
Yeah, substantially cooler out there. It's not unusual for it to be 15, even 20 degrees cooler out there because the fog lingers. Great soil, and a special place for making those varietals. So yeah, we've got really the Burgundian focus on the Sonoma coast and the Bordeaux focus here in Napa Valley.
It's incredible. Once again, Joe did it something innovative and a trailblazer in the world of wine. I mean, not only you mentioned the Syrah, I know you have some obscure German varietals also. You make a little bit of dessert wine. That's pretty incredible.
That's right. We have a what we now call Delice, but it's from the Shoei Reba varietal, which you don't see often here in California. But it's a wine it's a nod to our original winemaker, really, Walter Schug, who he made some delicious dessert wines that even from the 80s are holding up beautifully right now. So
no, they're incredible. Every time I've come across them, I might have some in my cellar still that I'm really holding tight with all my nails, not too over it. But we have a question from Henrik Wagner. What's your favorite Insignia vintage?
That's a great question.
That is no pressure.
Yeah. 2002 is a really remarkable and special year for all of us here at the winery. I think that was a historic vintage for us for a variety of reasons. You know, it really is a balanced vintage of Insignia. It was the year that got Wine of the Year from Wine Spectator.
Absolutely.
Which was really a nice nod to the track record that was built up to that point. It later on got reviewed 100 points from Parker. So I think I get a little skewed by that. It was such a monumental time. It was for our family and for the whole team. And so if I had to choose one, 18-year-old 2002 Insignia would have to be it right now.
And Kim says 1985, which actually it's a strong contender as well, I imagine.
Yeah, and if there was unlimited access, I guess you'd say 74.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the original and pioneer. Man, Will, thank you so much for joining us. I know we could talk forever, but also we have Kelsey joining us today, and we're going to dig a little bit into her experience. So we'll wait for Kelsey to join live. But man, what a treat! Hope you and the girls are all great and enjoying yourselves. Love the pink, so and very good to see you. I hope to give you a real hug very soon.
I hope so too. Thanks, Eduardo.
Cheers to you, Will.
We'll hand it over to my cousin Kelsey now.
There she is. Kelsey,
hey!
tell us a little bit about. I was just telling a little bit about your way into the corporate law, which was your major, right? And that's where you decided to exercise before joining the winery.
That is true. As Will was talking about, possibly thinking about a first career, I did go that path. I became a corporate lawyer and I practiced law in Silicon Valley for a couple of years. And then, just spending the little free time that I had visiting my grandfather on the weekends, and realized my passion was really in the wine industry. Yeah. And, it's such a magical place, such a beautiful place, and it's hard to get away from. So I wear a couple of hats. I work for Phelps Vineyards and represent the family at events and etc. And I run my own very small boutique sparkling wine brand that I started in 2017, just released in this December, called Seppi, which is the
nickname for Joe, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. So that's what I do, other than my little bit of law that I still do, not very much, and my work with Phelps. I run my own small boutique company, but I named it after my grandfather because my grandfather was such an innovator and an entrepreneur and someone who really made a mark in the valley. So whenever I have the chance to come on and talk about Phelps wines, the 2017 cab that we're drinking
delicious
now, I jump at the opportunity because these wines are really, really incredible. And one of the things that I love most about what we've been able to do as a family and as a company over now 40 plus years, we're about to have our 50th anniversary coming up in a few years.
That is easy to say. Jeez.
Yes. And I really find that our wines are almost a snapshot then of Napa Valley over time, because we've been making Napa Cab every vintage since 1973.
Wow.
So you can kind of see the trajectory, the ebbs and flows and stylistic practices in winemaking. You can see the vintages year from year. It's a really special wine.
Absolutely. I mean, it really captures the essence. And as I mentioned earlier, a pioneer in the Napa Valley. I mean, back then, as Will mentioned, there was only 30 wineries, and it was the who's who: Joe Heights, Robert Mondavi, Martinelli, and Joe Phelps. Really, really founded what it's now, over 500 wineries. And but it's the core. I mean, there's nobody around the world you will say Joseph Phelps and doesn't connect it immediately to like the quality and the richness and the soul of Napa Valley.
Did I cut out?
Yes,
I have
you
to
are.
tell you a story.
Please.
On that point. Actually, my uncle Will's dad told this story going back years and years ago when my grandfather first started the winery, 1972-ish. And Bill likes to tell a story. My grandfather, which is true, he was hardly ever wrong. He was pretty, pretty good at business, etc. Hardly ever wrong. Building the winery, there were about 20, 23, 24 wineries in Napa at that time. And he said to Bill, he goes, Bill, we have got to get moving on this winery. We have got to get this up and running. We've got to get this going fast. There's already 24 wineries in Napa, and I just don't know if it can sustain a 25th.
Wow.
Yeah, he was wrong about that.
Yes, look at it now. It's really thriving. I mean, there's a lot of weight on the shoulders that got put by those original wineries, and Joseph Phelps included. Tell us a little bit about the future. Where do you guys see yourselves? A little bit about a broad spectrum for everybody that's watching and is very curious about.
Yes, well, thank you so much to everyone who's watching. It's such an honor, and thank you, Eduardo, for having us on. It's such an honor to be able to be in this family business and to talk about something that I'm so passionate about. We are very much a family business. As Will talked about, we're now into the 4th generation. We have 8 in my generation. All of us are very involved, if not in the day-to-day of the winery. We're all very involved in keeping close as a family and keeping the business family owned, continuing to ensure that we're making the highest quality wines. We're very, as a 3rd generation, my generation, very focused on sustainability, very focused on very high quality fruit farming practices. And I think that our future, we've got our Napa properties producing beautiful Cabernet and some, a few Rhone varietals that we had talked about that my grandfather was innovative in. We've got our Freestone properties producing really fabulous and better Pinot and Chardonnay.
I
really
completely
delicious
agree. Certainly.
Out of the Sonoma coast. And so I think that our goal as my generation is really to make sure that we don't lose the heart and soul of what makes our winery what it is, and that is the commitment to quality, the care for everyone who works on our team. It's really about keeping it family led in the vision that my grandfather had.
Absolutely. And just continuing that. I mean, and it's remarkable, as you mentioned, so many generations, and just keeping the flame going. And it's if anything, just maintaining the quality. And every time I visit the winery, I was lucky to visit this week, and it's this beautiful kind of, heartwarming feeling to it, but pretty amazing. Wow. And a big shout out to Falana, who is watching. And we love Falana. She's amazing. Yes, and
she's fabulous.
Big hug to her. Thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna move on to Kim, and but
so
what a
happy
treat!
to have
and we
Kim join the team recently.
He's amazing.
Yes, we've got a great team.
And I can't wait to try your sparkling cans.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. Such a pleasure. I hope to meet you in person. I'm on the East Coast right now. That's why it's a little bit darker. But I hope to meet you in person sometime soon.
I can't wait, and we'll share some of your bubbles. Cheers.
Cheers.
And speaking of Kim Beto is a person that everybody that's met him over the time, you can just feel that charisma and the richness and the education you get from him.
It's great to have you. I appreciate you including us. I just want to show everyone, this is the view from my office.
Wow.
Eduardo was just here, what was it, yesterday I saw you?
Yesterday or the day before. I wish it was every day.
And I have some cab, which is great because it's 5:20. We usually drink wine, you and I, around noon every day, but here we start usually around 5. So great to have Kelsey and Will on because
What a treat. It's something that doesn't happen every day. And
when you can
tell
get
us a little
family
bit about
members,
you, Kim.
when you
just
can
started
get
with the
family members
winery.
talking about the wines, that's very special. Yeah, you know me from Southern and from the quartermasters and all that, but
Yes.
When this opportunity came up, I wanted it really, really badly, and I never thought I would leave Southern, but I have a long history with this property. I've been, drinking and selling these wines for over 30 years.
Absolutely. A lot of the memories, as I mentioned to you, that I've seen you was there, and I always tie it to it. So it was a pretty natural progression. Tell us a little bit, because you were telling me about some of the reasons why you joined. I mean, just the stars aligned in some ways, but over the years, this has been a perfect story between you and Joseph Phelps.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite surreal, but when you look back at the tasting that you came to, I was sitting with Bill and Will and Ashley, and Fred Dame was here as well, and we did a vertical tasting of Insignia that was spectacular. And I see Bill almost every day. He's in the office next to me. I work with Will every day. Elizabeth, Will's cousin, is very much involved. She's director of marketing, and there's family members here, like you just met Kelsey, who has a great sparkling wine. I have a bottle in here for Eduardo. When you come here, we can share that.
I can't wait.
Great wine.
I cannot wait.
So for me to come here, it's a couple of things. This is a Napa first growth, obviously. It's one of the pioneering true estate wines from Napa, and it's family owned. They're incredible people. I mean, I met Will the first time probably 12-13 years ago. His father many years ago. I met Joe. I'm not going to admit that I'm that old, but I met him a very long time ago. And this is a very special place. This little valley here is an amazing valley. The wines speak for themselves. Freestone that you brought up, truly a spectacular
it's a
property.
piece of heaven. Yeah.
And I wasn't on because my phone stopped working, but out at Freestone, they make some incredible single vineyard wines. And I don't know if they mentioned the Ovation sparkling wine that they do out there as well.
No, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you can't have any, so.
But hopefully some of our viewers and members can get their hands sometime. And
that you would have to talk to Will about that one, because he holds that very tight. But it's a spectacular sparkling wine, 3 years on the lees. True method traditionnel, very pretty wine. And I was out there a couple of weeks ago with our president and the director of operations, Clarice and Sam, and we tasted with Justin Chardonnay going back to 08, and there was an 09 Pastoral that tasted just like the Tard Montrachet.
I mean, talk about Pastoral. I just had the 13.
Yeah, I gave it to you to taste.
Oh my God, what an incredible wine! I mean, I don't want to go on and on, but
tastes like
you guys will see it. You should see my tasting notes on it. It's incredible, and it's a wine that's given a true statement of the terroir and the climate.
Yeah. But I'm humbled and very, very blessed to work here. Great people, great family, great wines. I mentioned Justin, but both Justin and Ashley are really, really true artisanal winemakers that are making real quality wines, and the scores prove that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm drink. I don't know why we're not drinking, but I'm having some of the 17 right here.
Oh, fantastic! I am as well. It's just incredible.
Yeah,
drinking beautifully, a fantastic vintage. And I want to say, Kim, hey, cheers to you. I think this is a perfect place. And they're really lucky to have you, and you're really lucky to be there. And it's just a perfect partnership. And thank you for everything you guys do. And happy to share a glass of wine with you anytime now that you're closer to us in the valley. So cheers, man. Thank you so much.
I'll blind taste you next time. All right, cheers.
Don't say that. Cheers.
And hi, everyone that's on the call. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. And this was a fantastic, another episode.
Nice hat, by the way.
Wine Access. Thank you. Thank you. Just arrived. This is my new baby. And I couldn't wait to share it. So cheers, guys.
Thank
you. Be well.
Bye. Yeah.
Drink well. Cheers.
Yeah.